Most speakers do not get paid at all, but here's how I cracked the code. The first gig that I ever had was really weird. I didn't apply for it. I had never heard of it before, but I made $1,000 and they paid for my expenses, my travel, my hotel, and I had a lovely time. And since then, I've done well over probably 40 or 50 speaking engagements over my career. I've really enjoyed it, made some extra income, and I want to share with you what I've learned on my journey. A good friend of mine named Shane asked me some of these questions, and so imagine like you're just listening into a conversation between the two of us. So there are three ways that I get speaking engagements, and I think most people get. The first way, and it's perhaps the easiest, and it's just through straight up networking. Whoever's in your network that has an audience or something that, a conference, I suppose, that allows you to network, get an opportunity. If you've never done any speaking before, this is potentially an easy ask. If you don't know anyone, well, then it's time to go meet some people. No matter what your industry is, you probably have an association for your industry. And even though you may not be involved, they are always looking for good speakers, especially if you're already in that industry. It's quite easy to get an engagement this way. Depending on how big the association is, they may not have a budget at all. But this is perhaps one of the easiest ways to get started if you have zero experience, because not only can you practice your talk and get feedback from people about it, but you can also get a wonderful testimonial that you can use as a part of your marketing later. The second way, and perhaps the one that most speakers don't want to do, is cold outreach. So just reaching out to event organizers, anyone who is in charge of like a contract role, who is organizing a conference, an event, or people that have connections in that space. This means probably emailing them, going on LinkedIn, starting up conversations, introducing yourself, trying to build a relationship. The more straight to the punch you are in this approach tends to be the least effective. So if you have a team of people, I would recommend utilizing them, as it's often monotonous work, sending out emails. If you have a book, a physical book, this is one of the best ways that you can cold network with someone, and just because to give someone a physical copy of your book immediately speaks volumes of the character, the quality, and who you are, and potentially also some of the content of what could be in your talk. I have been coaching Corey Jinks for, I think, about 4 years now. Corey is a pharmacist who also is a part-time speaker, and he went part-time in his job because of how successful his speaking business is. And one of the things that he created was a book. He sends that book out to organizers and then can get gigs because they're like, hey, this was a decent book, or hey, you're the exact kind of person who could speak at our event. We would love to have you. And the third, and perhaps the most desired way, is inbound requests. So this is essentially based on your content, your reputation, your brand, that leads to invites or referrals, more appropriately. So when you start going out and speaking, I would recommend that you try to get at least a short video of yourself speaking that you can use for later for content, as well as branding. But the quality of your speaking engagement hopefully can lead to other opportunities. It does depend on the size of the audience. If you're speaking to a room of like 50, 100 people, that may not be happening. But if you do get a free gig, you can use that as marketing material to say, hey, here's a snippet of my talk. If you're looking for a dynamic speaker, this is something that you could, this is something I would love to do at your conference, or your convention, whatever. And I'm at the point now in my career where this is basically the only kind of engagements I really even consider doing. So last year I did, I believe, 5 major keynote events where I keynoted the smaller conferences, anywhere from 100 to 200 people. Each gig was, well, I'm not going to share the price, not until later. Come on. I got to tease you a little bit. And this really can only happen after you start doing more and more gigs to get inbound requests. But you may be saying to yourself, okay, well, I can do this, but they're going to look at me where I'm at. What are they going to see? And this is the big question that I feel like you have to focus on first before reaching out, which is your positioning, your branding. How do you do that? Well, your brand matters, your reputation matters, your presentation matters. I wouldn't let it stop you from getting initial gigs if you've never done one before, if you haven't done something for free. But if you're like my friend Shane, who's got a massive YouTube channel, that's more than enough. People can see it. They understand who you are, what you're all about. But having a decent website, having a professional LinkedIn profile, these things matter, and your authority on the subject matter, whatever it is, should be put into full display so that everyone can see. Because if you're kind of hiding, it's probably not going to work out very well. But the other thing that's important here is what topics sell. You can really only learn this by knowing insiders or event organizers. Every year or so, different industries go through phases. So I'm not going to talk about it like politically, but as a topic, burnout and DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, were huge subjects for conferences in every industry for the last 5 years, or 7 years maybe. And that has died down. We're now shifting into a new era with newer topics. You can only really learn what those are by speaking with convention organizers, event organizers, so that you can get a full scale of what could my topic be that would benefit them. Because the reason why event organizers want certain people to speak at the event is to attract more people to it. And if they're the ones that know the topics that are hot, that are drawing people in, or at least what their members or their attendees are requesting, they have more people talk about. The quicker you find this out, the easier it is for you to come up with a really hot and selling topic. But if you don't have a topic, my recommendation is that you really only need one killer talk. A message that resonates, a message that you can deliver over and over again, that yes, can be branded or worded differently over the years, but I know a few people whose entire business is really just keynotes. They only have one talk. They don't need to develop it over and over again, because when they speak at a convention, sometimes there's this thing that happens when you speak where you're like, okay, I've said this thing and now everyone knows the idea. Everyone gets it. I can't say it again. And that's just never the case. Because you're obviously, there's 8 billion people on the planet. You have plenty of people that you can share your message with. So now let's talk about what everyone really wants to know when they get speaking, which is, what do you charge? Well, I think that if you think about this as a beginner, experienced, and then top tier, if you're beginning, what do you charge? I would highly encourage you that if you're not keynoting at a conference, that you charge anywhere from like at least $100 to up to $1,000. Now, this is totally industry specific. It really does depend. I mean, I spoke for Dynamite Circle's Bangkok conference for free. And it was because I'm a member of the community. The community has given back so much to me. So, and plus I was speaking about business, which is not something I typically get asked to speak about in a paid way. I did it for free, and I didn't care. I used it as marketing. I used it as material that for one day, if I do want to speak in the business world, then I can use that. So like, I didn't really engage with it at a experienced or a top tier level. If you're experienced, I would recommend going in the range between, is what it is, anywhere between 1 to 5K. I think this is a safe bet. This is something that you could charge depending on the industry. And to put things in perspective for you, so my main business is in the pharmacy world. Right now, we're charging $3,000, which is low. It's very low in the grand scheme of things. And the reason why we do that is simply because the conferences that I speak at typically have a lot of my audience, my followers, my target market. So it's a great opportunity for me to really essentially get clients, which I think that is the best way to think about speaking for your business. You know, there's really two ways. You can go the speaker path or the business path. I go the business path because if I get in front of my audience, I share my message, I resonate with people, they're going to find out my stuff, they're going to download my things, they're going to sign up for my programs. But there are different people who go the speaker path where speaking is their entire career. These are top tier speaking rates. They typically charge on the low end $5,000. But if you're a true keynote speaker, you're doing 15, 20, 30, 50K per engagement. And they could demand that kind of level for the message. This is perhaps my final note. It's really easy, especially from someone like I'm clinically trained. I've got a very, technical minded brain. There's sometimes this idea that speakers just share information, but true top tier speakers, their message is all about transformation. It's all about a simple concept, a simple idea that is so impactful that it leaves people feeling inspired, empowered, changed, and moved emotionally. Rarely does that happen with super boring information. But if you're my friend like Shane, I'm going to recommend, it does depend on what market you're going to get into, but I would recommend you try to aim for at least the experienced or top tier rates. So how do you go though from like getting a few $100s to $5,000 or more? Well, experience, time, and practice. It's a ton of fun to speak. It's like art. It's exposure. It's feeling vulnerable. It's getting people to laugh and learning how to crack the code of getting people to do something new. And I love it. I love it so much that I'm actually putting my energy more into events and speaking. And I haven't shared this at all with my audience for my main business, but I'm going to be doing live events soon. And it's scary. It's pushing me outside of my comfort zone. There's this fear of, is it going to work out? I have no clue. I think it will. Things tend to work out for me. But that's how we grow and how we learn and how we can essentially become paid speakers. Pushing ourselves out of our comfort zones causes growth, and it gets us into a wonderful place. And are really fulfilling moments where you will be told by people that you do not know that you've changed their life. You've given them hope, or you've given them perspective or inspiration or the thing that they needed. And I hope you get to do that from the stage. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, hit a like, subscribe, follow along, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take care.